You have spent more money following a team of strangers around the world than you spent on your own wedding. And when your spouse brings this up, you genuinely do not understand why they think that comparison is relevant. Nobody decides to become a superfan. It happens the way most obsessions happen. One ordinary moment that should not have mattered as much as it did, and then a slow, almost invisible accumulation of decisions that each made sense individually and add up eventually to a life organized around a tournament that happens once every 4 years. This is your life at every level as a World Cup superfan. Level 1. You are 11 years old and your country qualifies for a tournament that, until this exact moment, you had only understood as something that happened to other countries. Your parent buys you a jersey. It is too big. The sleeves hang past your fingertips. You wear it anyway, every single day for 3 weeks, including to school, where a teacher eventually has a quiet conversation with you about laundry that you do not fully understand the urgency of, because you are not thinking about hygiene. You are thinking about the fact that for the first time in your life, you are part of something larger than your own house. You watch the opening match with your entire extended family crowded into a living room that is technically not big enough for this many people. Someone scores. The room detonates. You have never experienced collective joy at this volume in your entire life, and something in your nervous system quietly files this experience away as a thing worth chasing again. You do not know yet that you have just experienced the first hit of something that will eventually cost you significantly more than a jersey. Level 2. You are a teenager now, and watching alone has started to feel insufficient. You discover that there are other people exactly like you, people who have also organized a meaningful percentage of their personality around this specific national team, who also know the starting 11 by heart, who also experience a match the way other people experience a religious service. You find them at a pub that opens at 6 in the morning for matches happening on the other side of the world. This is the first time you understand that fandom is not a private experience. It is a community with its own informal rules, its own hierarchy of seniority, its own specific superstitions that everyone follows without ever discussing whether they are actually rational. You sit in the same seat every match. Not because the seat is better. Because moving seats once, during a tournament 4 years ago, coincided with your team losing, and nobody in this community needed more evidence than that to establish a permanent rule. You belong here. You have never belonged anywhere this completely before. Level 3. The tournament is being held somewhere you have never been, and for the first time in your life, you decide that watching is not enough. You need to be there. This decision costs more money than you currently have, which becomes a problem you solve the way an entire generation of superfans has learned to solve it. A payment plan for the flight, a hostel booked with 11 other fans you have never met who found each other through a forum dedicated entirely to people in your exact situation, a budget for the trip that does not survive contact with the actual trip. You stand in a stadium designed to hold 80,000 people in a sea of your own country's colors, and you experience something that the watch party, for all its community, could not fully replicate. You are not watching the team anymore. You are with them, geographically, physically, in the same building, breathing the same air, your voice one small contributing thread in a roar that the players can apparently hear and respond to. Your team wins. You do not remember the flight home. You remember deciding, somewhere over an ocean, that you will do this again. Level 4. The decision to do this again has compounded. 4 years have passed. Another tournament, another flight, another hostel, another set of tickets purchased from a resale market that exists specifically to extract maximum value from people exactly as committed as you are. You have a credit card now that exists, functionally, for this purpose only. You do not call it Superfan debt out loud, because saying it out loud would require acknowledging the actual number and the actual number is large enough that you have developed a specific mental technique for not looking at it directly, the way you might avoid looking directly at the sun. Your partner asks, reasonably, why this specific thing is worth a financial strain that nothing else in your life is permitted to create. You do not have a good answer. You have a true answer, which is different. The true answer is that this is the only thing in your adult life that still produces the unfiltered, full-bodied joy you felt in that crowded living room at 11 years old. And you are not willing to give that up for reasons that are financially sound but emotionally insufficient. You make the minimum payment. You start saving immediately for the next one. Level 5. This is the level that makes it permanent in a way that money eventually does not. A jersey wears out and gets replaced. A flight gets paid off, slowly, painfully, and the debt eventually disappears. Even the most committed superfan relationship to a tournament has, theoretically, an exit ramp. A tattoo does not. You decide to get the crest, or the year of the trophy, or a specific phrase in a specific font that means something only to people who were in the stadium for the specific match it references. You sit in the chair and you do not hesitate, which surprises the tattoo artist, who has seen plenty of people hesitate over decisions far less permanent than this one. You do not hesitate because somewhere in the years between the jersey and this chair, the team stopped being something you support and became something closer to a fact about who you are. The way your nationality is a fact, the way your family is a fact, things that exist whether or not you actively think about them on any given day. You look at the finished tattoo. You feel something that is not quite pride and not quite relief. It is closer to recognition, like you are looking at something that was already true and is now simply visible. Level 6, the fan group you found years ago at the 6 a.m. pub, has become something that functions in practical terms like an extended family. You have been to their weddings. You went to a funeral for one of them last year. A founding member of the group, someone who had organized away trips for 15 years before a heart condition nobody knew about, took him during a tournament he had been looking forward to for months. The group wore his team's old retro jersey to the funeral. Nobody discussed this beforehand. It simply happened the way certain rituals happen inside communities that have built enough shared history that some decisions no longer require conversation. You realize, somewhere around this point, that the actual football has become almost secondary to the structure the football provides. The matches are the excuse. The community is the point. This is either the healthiest or the most concerning realization of your entire superfan journey, depending entirely on who you ask, and you have stopped being able to fully separate which one it actually is. Level 7. The 2026 tournament has expanded to 48 nations across 3 host countries, which means the logistics of following your team have become genuinely complicated in ways previous tournaments never required. Multiple visa applications, internal flights across an entire continent, hotel availability that disappears the moment your team's group is confirmed. You do not care. You have planned for 14 months. You have a spreadsheet, an actual spreadsheet with tabs, tracking flights, accommodation, ticket resale prices, and a contingency plan for every possible scenario, including the one where your team does not advance from the group stage, because even superfans eventually learn to plan for disappointment. You arrive at the first match 3 hours early. Not because you need to, because the feeling of being in the stadium in your colors, surrounded by people who understand exactly what this costs and decided to pay it anyway, is its own experience that you do not want to compress into the minimum necessary time. You meet fans from your team's opponent. You buy each other a drink before kickoff and promise to hate each other for 90 minutes exactly, an arrangement that both of you understand completely and that makes the eventual outcome, whatever it is, somehow easier to live with. Level 8. Your team loses in the quarterfinals on penalties. This specific method of losing Penalties, the cruelest possible ending the sport offers, a result determined by a coin flip dressed up as skill under unbearable pressure, is the one your community has feared specifically, the way people fear a particular disease that has already taken someone they loved. The stadium around you goes from 80,000 people making noise to a silence that feels, somehow, louder. You do not cry immediately. The crying happens later, in a hotel room, alone, in a way that surprises you with its intensity, given that you are an adult mourning the outcome of a sporting event involving strangers you have never personally met. You call someone from your fan group. They are also crying. Neither of you says anything for almost a full minute, and the silence is not awkward because you both understand exactly what the other person is going through without needing to narrate it. You fly home 4 days later than planned because changing the flight cost less than the alternative, and you spend those 4 days in a city that has already moved on from a tournament that, for you, has just ended the only way it was always going to feel like it ended. Too soon, on penalties, with something unfinished. Level 9. You go home. The tournament continues without you, somewhere, on a screen. But you find yourself unable to watch the remaining matches with the same intensity because the team that organized your entire emotional calendar for 14 months is no longer playing. This is the level that nobody warns superfans about. Not the debt, not the travel exhaustion, the specific, disorienting emptiness that arrives the moment the thing that has structured your identity for years simply stops requiring anything from you. You have free time you do not know what to do with. You have emotional energy that was previously allocated entirely to a tournament and now has nowhere obvious to go. Your partner notices you are different. Not sad exactly, something closer to unmoored, the way people describe feeling after finishing a long degree program or leaving a job they held for a decade. You start researching the next tournament. Not the World Cup, that is 4 years away, but the Continental Championship, the qualifying matches, the friendlies that exist specifically to give people exactly like you something to organize a Tuesday evening around. You are not recovering from the obsession. You are managing the gap between obsessions. This is, you slowly realize, simply what your life is now. Level 10. Years pass. Tournaments accumulate. The tattoo gets older. The debt gets paid off and replaced by new debt for the next trip. In a cycle that has stopped feeling like a problem and started feeling like simply how your finances work. The way a mortgage is, simply how other people's finances work. You bring your own child to their first match. You buy them a jersey that is too big. You watch their face during the national anthem, and you recognize, with a clarity that surprises you, the exact expression you must have had at 11 years old in a living room, too crowded for the number of people in it. You do not say anything to them about what this might cost them eventually, the flights, the debt, the tattoo they have not gotten yet, the funeral they will eventually attend for someone from a fan community they have not joined yet. You let them have the moment, uncomplicated, the way yours was uncomplicated before any of that arrived. Someone scores. The room detonates. Your child looks at you with an expression of pure, unfiltered joy, and you understand, watching them, exactly what you are passing down, and you do it anyway because some inheritances are worth their cost, even when you know precisely what that cost will eventually be. Every superfan starts with one jersey that was too big. Most people who buy that jersey never go further than wearing it to a few matches and moving on with their lives. The ones who do go further discover that the tournament was never really about the football. It was about the version of themselves that the football made possible, the one capable of unfiltered joy, of total belonging, of caring about something with their entire chest in a world that mostly asks people to care about things in moderation. That version of yourself was always going to cost something. The only real question was whether you would decide at every level that the cost was worth it. You did. You probably will again. Subscribe. Tell me which level hit different. Drop the next topic below